Rocks are the easy way to figure out what you need to do right now to make sure that your group succeeds. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thank you for joining the Leadership Launch series. My name is Spencer. This is the channel where I help leaders build themselves and build their teams so they can smash through any of their goals. Today, we're going to be talking about a very important concept for your team called rocks. There is this doctor named Dr. Stephen R. Convoy, and what ended up happening with him is that he termed this coin called rocks. He said that there are rocks, there are pebbles, and then there's sand. And what a company tries to do, or a leader and within a group, any group really, is that they have a jar that, oh man, that's that was pretty bad, is that they have a jar that they're trying to fit all of these into. And what ends up happening is that when they don't have any structure, when there's not any guidelines in terms of what they're trying to aim for, what they're trying to do, what ends up happening is that you have a jar here, and through this jar, you have a bunch of sand at the bottom, perhaps a few pebbles, and you have just a bunch of rocks stuck at the top here. So nothing really important, nothing of significance gets done in the company that it needs to. And what he proposed is these rocks, when you actually put them into the jar, first, you'll have this occurrence where you'll have rocks every other way, and then you'll have some pebbles that fall in between the rocks, and then everything else is going to be filled with sand. And that's how a company should be trying to operate. That's how a company needs to be operating for them to really get stuff done, to move the needle of whatever they want. And it's the same thing as a leader for you and your team. You got to figure out what these rocks are that you're aiming for. A rock represents anything that needs to move forward. It's the most important thing that you need to get done. So most important tasks or outcomes that you need, right? These are the most important things that must get done. Pebbles are your day-to-day activities or day-to-day responsibilities. And the sand is the interruptions that go on throughout the day. That's what the rocks, pebbles, and sand represents for yourself as a leader, and when you're trying to discuss what you need to do for your team. Now, all these rocks have to be completed within a 90-day window, a 90-day period of time for you to get them done. And people may ask, well, why isn't 90 days? Funny enough, our brains tend to lose focus on something after 90 days. That's why there's a lot of starting and stopping, a lot of progress, and then a lack of interest. And I'm not talking about habit building here. I'm talking about a collective project that people want to get done. By the 90-day mark, if they get to that point, they tend to lose focus. And they start losing out on what's important, and they start branching off to whatever else, which is not important for the company or for the project that needs to get done. Okay, so that's why it's in 90 days. What you have to do is every 90 days, which yes is the same as a physical quarter, so every 90 days or a quarter, you must review with your team the last rocks that you were focusing on. And if you haven't been focusing on any rocks, that's okay. Just collectively figure out what was it that you were trying to focus on for the last little while, and that will get you there, right? So review the rocks that your team was trying to work on, and then review and deliberate what is the most important rocks that your team needs to accomplish in the next 90 days. 90, right? So review new rocks. Now, as a team, these new rocks have to move the company forward. It has to move the project forward. It needs to get results. And that's what you end up deciding on what are your rocks. Individuals also have these rocks. So any individual on your team must have 1 to 3 rocks. For those individuals who are having their own rocks, they need to be aligned with either the company or the whole organization, the project itself, or their leader's rocks. And as a leader, you need to make sure that you correct this. If people have rocks that aren't really aligned with, again, the project and what they're trying to go towards, you need to correct them and have them have a new rock. Once you have these rocks for the individuals and the teams, you must review them weekly. And the reason why is because you have 12 weeks. 12 weeks fly by fast. If you're thinking about 3 weeks, 3 weeks fly by fast. And especially when you're being intentional about it, being focused on those rocks, you're gonna notice that it flies real quick. And if you want to really gamify it, if you really want people to have that like a playful competitive pressure, you have a 90-day countdown where every day you count down what they have left. And people are going to see that, and they start to understand and realize that they need to keep on pushing for specific results that they have assigned themselves, in part that you have assigned them as a leader. There is a misconception about these rocks. People will often think that these rocks equal extra work. It's not true. It's not extra work. It's supposed to play into the day-to-day activities that you already have set out for you. It's not supposed to be an excuse to have them to have you work more for less. That's not what this is. Like when you're sitting on a rock, think about something that you can do about 80% of. So think about something that it would require 90% of you to do. Something challenging. And you must expect that there will be a minimum of 80% being complete. You cannot expect 100%. That's not what this is for. The rocks need to be challenging enough that it makes people uncomfortable and encourages their growth by really hitting home what they need to do day to day today. But you can't aim for 100%. That's perfectionism. We're not trying to do 100%. If you may be asking me, well, Spencer, why are we even doing this in the first place then? Because you need direction. You need structure, and you need something to work towards that's going to move the whole project forward for yourself as a leader and for the team. It needs to be challenging. It needs to encourage growth so that they grow more. They have more security in their judgment and their own leadership, that they are secure and solid in their efforts, and that it's not going to be wasted amongst the company or amongst whatever the project is. 100% is just doomed to failure. Even as yourself, for a leader, you fail all the time. It's part of learning, yes, and there's also uncontrollables that we have constantly in our life. So if you expect a minimum of 80, that leaves the 20% for it to be the distractions of day-to-day life, maybe an emergency that happened, or perhaps you had to replace someone else. Whatever the case is, it means that when something tries to go up against you and push back, you're okay with that because you're expecting it. You're prepared for that. If you're thinking 100%, you're just going to run yourself to the ground, and it's not going to be helpful at all. Now, for rocks, it's very important to make sure that you can keep each other accountable, which is why things need to be specific. In previous videos, I've mentioned something called a SMART goal. In terms of creating a vision, in terms of really grounding yourself in your foundation, in your principles, making sure that you are continuously working on your milestones on your day-to-day, I don't think that you should go with a SMART goal. This is purely to ground the structure of which you get to it. So if you were to have a SMART goal, the SMART goal, here's the foundation. A SMART goal is what gives you the scaffolding to build up. You need the foundation first before you can attempt to build. And most of people's foundations are built off of external ideals and comparisons, not an internal driven pursuit. So that's why I have said Don't use SMART goals for your foundation, use SMART goals for your structure. If you don't by chance know what a SMART goal is, a SMART goal is specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. That's what a SMART goal is. And that's the structure around the rocks you must have in order for it to be something they can keep people accountable to week by week. For whatever reason, during this 90-day period, you pick a structure for your rocks or your goals or whatever else, and it's not working out. It's not fitting well, or people aren't really aligned with it, and it's just causing a bunch of issues. Still use it for the full 90 days. Because what's going to end up happening is that they're going to, here, I'm just going to erase this. Because what ends up happening is that if you go here, right, by the end of the 90 days, you exponentially grow what you're going to do with that model, with that structure. If you constantly break and switch up what you're planning to do throughout those 90 days, then it starts and stops, like I've just expressed before. And then you plateau in what possible results you can get. So everyone, I hope that you found that helpful. This was more of a shorter video just to discuss a more core concept of structure for you and your team. If you do have any comments about what structures have really worked for you, perhaps your experience with using rocks, please comment down below. And make sure to subscribe so I can see you all in the next video.